into potential civil rights violations with regards to how the WNBA, its leadership, and its players are treating the Golden Goose, Caitlin Clark.
Apparently, there's some jealousy that might be manifesting itself into physical, inappropriate conduct.
The WNBA was recently exposed for shielding the wrong players while their biggest star receives. On live television, it was demolished, and you'll start to doubt everything after seeing what league officials did after the camera stopped. You believed yourself to be knowledgeable in professional sports.
The league has fostered a hostile workplace for Ms. Clark's excessive fouling. Yeah, that's bullshit. Targeting and hostile comments from other players and owners. Ms. Clark's targeting may reflect a culture of disparate treatment.
This is what no one is discussing. Caitlin Clark prevented the WNBA as a whole from becoming completely obsolete. Sales of merchandise surged by 600%, app downloads increased by 600%, subscriptions increased by 400% overnight, the value of her team tripled. She is literally the reason women's basketball is relevant now.
People that are resentful towards her. But it's really not about her, guys. It's about what she represents.
How, then, did the league pay her back? As a rookie, they allowed her to receive 17% of all egregious fouls in the league. Consider that, out of 144 players, one took 17% of the sport's most vicious blows. That is twice everyone's rate. Anything else? It's not basketball here. This is deliberate targeting while wearing a basketball uniform. However, this is when it becomes completely crazy. This targeting was not merely permitted by the WNBA, they threw Caitlin while actively defending the athletes. Clark beneath the bus.
There's a very small number of men and women that actually get to live out their dream of playing a professional sport. And we have grown-ass men and women out here doing whatever they can to try to make sure that does not happen. That is the weirdest thing in the world, but it is what it is, and I'm glad that Caitlin has a great head on her shoulder.
First, let's talk about the Kennedy Carter body check that stunned the basketball community. Carter was really taken aback. Like a linebacker making a tackle, Clark knocked her to the ground and moved away from the ball. The hit was so vicious that social. Calling it out, the media went berserk.
Chicago's Kennedy Carter shoulder checking the Fever's Caitlin Clark, knocking her to the ground. The call initially deemed a common foul by officials.
Here's the worst part, though, that it was deemed a common foul by the referees.
Caitlin Clark is being fouled at a record rate. Some of them are brutal fouls, and a lot of the refs are looking the other way. And the women fouling her are doing it on purpose.
A typical foul. Do you know what followed? Like her teammate, Angel Reese leaped off the bench to celebrate. Recently took home the title. They were enjoying hurting the biggest star in the league. It was not even reviewed by the referees. They pretended that body checking someone to get them away from the ball was standard basketball. The league had to change it to a flagrant infraction later on due to the strong outcry. Was Carter suspended, though? Was she fined? Not at all. She informed reporters that she was only competing and that she had no regrets about the hit. Do you regret the way it happened and anything that has transpired since? I have no regrets about anything. As I mentioned earlier, I will compete and give it my all regardless of who we are against. I have no regrets at all. What if an NFL player claimed they had no regrets over a cheap shot that might have ended someone's life? Profession, they would be absent for several weeks. However, the WNBA allowed her to continue playing as if nothing had happened. The Marina Mowbray event followed. That demonstrated the league's total loss of authority.
I mean, is that displacement? I think it is.
Oh, and Marina Mabry's going to get ejected. If the officials...
J.C. Sheldon stabbed Clark in the eye, and as she tries to heal, Marina Mabry pushes her to the ground without any justification at all. This was an outright assault. It wasn't during play or basketball. Clark, however, was exposed. The officials, as if it were a typical altercation, they called everyone technical fouls. The victim received the same treatment as the offender. The following day, the league had to upgrade it to a flagrant 2. To acknowledge that they made a mistake, but guess what? Mabry is still not suspended. This is why it's so twisted. The officials defended the wrong players in each of these occurrences. On plays, they called common fouls. That ought to have been obvious. They punished Clark and her assailants equally. They pretended to be the one receiving targeted was equally as accountable as those who carried out the targeting. The Chicago Sky started focusing on Clark is interested in team sports. It's hardly competitive basketball when one guy receives 4 flagrant fouls in 4 games. Concerted harassment when Angel Reese is celebrating cheap shots on you by leaping off the bench. Largest star, you have a cultural issue that extends far beyond isolated acts, but the most. The referees failed to call Rebecca Lobo, a former player and current pundit, which is damning proof. Noted that the 17% egregious foul percentage only includes fouls that were actually called.
We know how much Caitlin drives ratings. We know how much Caitlin drives attention on the WNBA, and for her to come back and do it in that way.
She has been keeping track of all the missed calls, cheap shots that were disregarded, and instances where officials looked the opposite direction when Clark was singled out. If every corrupt play that ought to have been audited had been phoned but weren't, the 17% figure would skyrocket. Consider how crazy this is. In any other professional sport, the league intervenes right away when a rookie superstar is being targeted at such high rates. They give cautions. They clearly state that their stars are off limits for cheap shots and impose punishments. The WNBA took a different approach. They forced Caitlin Clark battle for basic safety while everyone else did the same, normalized the targeting, and shielded the aggressors, pretending that this was only a game of physical basketball. In the meantime, 3-time league MVP Asia Wilson is publicly declaring that. It infuriates her when people try to claim that race has nothing to do with Clark's success and attention. Race, the targeting doesn't occur when league stars publicly discuss race. Under vacuum, even LeBron James couldn't believe what he was seeing, so he had to speak up. The best basketball player of all time, of this generation, called out adults who were attempting to sabotage someone's career aspirations out of sheer hatred. You can tell something is seriously wrong when LeBron has defended a WNBA rookie from her own league. Broken, the figures are accurate. More flagrant fouls were committed against Clark than any other rookie in WNBA history. At rates that would be unimaginable for superstars in any other profession, she absorbed targeting. Legal experts are referring to the stark statistical difference as proof of a hostile workplace. However, what truly reveals the WNBA's objectives is that they invested more time in managing public relations as opposed to safeguarding their most valuable resource. Each time one of these events became viral on social media, instead of confronting the targeting, they minimized its importance and bided their time until the narrative to end.
Caitlin Clark's civil rights has been broken, right? What does that mean? That means that Caitlin Clark is damn me gonna own the WNBA because she's gonna have a super duper lawsuit, bro.
This league allows its most valuable player to be routinely brutalized while claiming to care about player safety. They discuss expanding the sport while encouraging actions that alienate the very supporters Clark attracted to women's basketball. When it comes to player safety and institutional integrity, federal investigators have before intervened in sports. Were on the line, they became embroiled in the steroid controversy in baseball. During the NFL concussion crisis, they intervened. When systematic abuse was discovered, they acted with USA Gymnastics.
And they come to a conclusion that they believe she is being unfairly treated. That is going to be a problem for the WNBA.
All the warning signs that led to federal intervention in those situations are present in Caitlin Clark's circumstance. Statistical proof of unequal treatment. Statements made in public that show discriminatory intent. Institutional disregard for clear safety issues. There was a Michael Jordan moment in the WNBA. As their Tiger Woods entered the room, they were prepared to revolutionize their entire sport, rather than accepting this once-in-a-generation talent. They let anger and jealousy to make their savior a target. They decided to keep the emotions safe. Many athletes who worried about Clark's career and safety because he was practically rescuing their careers. Pretending it was merely competitive basketball, they normalized systematic targeting. The evidence is overwhelming. There is no denying the pattern. While keeping the players safe, the WNBA made their biggest stars' workplace unfriendly. Who were deliberately pursuing her? There is more to this than just basketball. This relates to what occurs when professional competition is corrupted by anger and jealousy. This relates to institutional failure on such a vast scale that federal investigators may need to intervene and correct what the WNBA declines to. To deal with, Caitlin Clark should have been shielded. She should have received the same treatment as celebrities in every other professional league. Earnings, rather, she experienced organized targeting, inept refereeing, and concerned league officials. More about handling controversy than making sure players are safe. The WNBA had everything. Desired to enter their home, they attempted to destroy it rather than celebrate it. And when the whole truth is revealed, when investigators begin looking over all of the video and conversations, the evidence will be much more damaging than what is now visible. But hold on, things get worse. Recall the eye of Joni Carrington. Make fun of Clark in the postseason, the one that appeared to be entirely deliberate and gave Clark a black eye. On repeat, it wasn't even called a foul by the refs. Despite the obvious poke, the referee did not declare it a foul. Referees, and until the Fever called a timeout to reclaim possession, play proceeded on the opposing side of the court. And assist Clark, consider that, your biggest star gets so severely stabbed in the eye that it becomes black. And the referees pretend nothing occurred. The play went on as if Clark's injuries were only a part of it. Of the strategy, they couldn't even discuss what had occurred to her until Indiana took a timeout. This is the most bizarre part. When it comes to safeguarding other players, the WNBA appears to have more stringent enforcement guidelines than defending their own Golden Goose, immediately ejected when Thomas clotheslined Angel Reese. She decked Caitlin Clark. Despite having a sore shoulder, she went about her daily routine. There is mounting evidence that this is not inadvertent incompetence. It's a pattern of systematic carelessness. Following the eye poke incident, Marina Mabrey shoved Clark. Along with everyone else involved, Clark received a technical foul from the officials. They equally punished the sufferer. With the person who attacked her, imagine being the victim of assault and then facing consequences for it. The psychological assault goes on. Beyond the actual physical aiming, Clark had to get up each time one of these situations occurred. Knowing that the league would not defend her, she picked herself up and carried on playing. She had to refrain from speaking, maintain a professional demeanor and act as though systematic targeting was a normal aspect of the game. Her assailants, meanwhile, faced no actual ramifications. Clark was pushed down by Kennedy Carter's shoulder check, which was only raised to a flagrant one after widespread indignation, without any suspension or severe penalty. The message was very obvious: you may go after Caitlin Clark and get away with it. What did not occur provides the most devastating proof. No penalties for focusing on the biggest star in the league. Teams and players received no warnings. No public declarations regarding safeguarding elite athletes. There are no policy modifications to address blatant targeting trends. The WNBA's reaction to methodical abuse of their most precious resource was total institutional silence. The federal investigators who have precedent for sports involvement and are currently investigating this matter. When systemic issues pose a threat, the government intervenes to ensure player safety and competition integrity. The statistical proof of inconsistent. When public remarks regarding racial motivations are coupled with treatment, the result is precisely the kind of hostile workplace that was intended to be addressed by federal civil rights legislation. What makes this tale even more it's terrible that Caitlin Clark managed everything with such professionalism and poise, even when questioned regarding the Digenai Carrington eye poke. Clark laughed off claims and defended her attacker, claiming it wasn't deliberate at all. Otherwise, even when the evidence was over, she refused to act like a victim.